Prince Amleth saw his father, King Orvindil, return from war at last. He quickly informed his mother of the king's arrival, and together the prince and the queen greeted the ruler as he rode into the settlement. During the welcome, King Orvindil presented Amleth with a necklace, reminding the boy that he would one day inherit the throne. That night, the entire clan celebrated the victory around a great fire. Amid the revelry, the king's brother, Fjalnir, received word that his own son, Thorir, had just been born. Later, once the festivities had subsided, King Orvindil confided to the queen that he had been wounded and believed the time was near when the prince would have to succeed him. Still later, he took Amleth to a coming-of-age ritual in the forest, where they met the shaman Hymir. The shaman offered a sacred drink. After father and son shared it, they howled into the night like wolves. Completing the ceremony, as they emerged from the rite, a band of villagers ambushed them. The king ordered Amleth to flee, and the prince hid among the trees, watching in horror, while Fjalnir murdered King Orvindil and claimed the crown. Fjalnir then commanded his men to find the prince and bring back his head. One pursuer tackled Amleth, but the boy stabbed him in the face with a pocket knife and escaped. When Amleth crept back toward the village, he saw Fjalnir carrying the queen over his shoulder while she screamed for help. A scout reported that the prince had leapt into the water and drowned, yet Amleth stole a small boat, rowed out to sea, and swore to avenge his father, rescue his mother, and kill Fjalnir. Years passed, and Amleth joined a band of Vikings, repeating the same vow each day. The warriors sailed to the land of Valhall, where they danced around a fire at night, whipping themselves into a berserk frenzy beneath wolf and bear skins. By dawn, they lost all restraint and stormed a nearby settlement. Amleth killed everyone he met, tearing one victim apart with his bare hands before howling at the sky. After the raid, the Vikings herded women and children into a cottage, set it ablaze, and celebrated with drink and dance. While exploring the area afterward, Amleth encountered a witch who identified him as the lost prince. She reminded him of his oath, handed him a crystal fashioned from his last tear, and foretold that he would meet his foe at the gates of hell, where he would have to choose between family and revenge. The next morning, Amleth overheard that Fjalnir, having lost his kingdom after killing his brother, now lived in Iceland. Seizing the chance, Amleth cut his hair, trimmed his beard, and branded himself as a slave so he could be sold with a group bound for Iceland. But on the voyage, he met Olga of the birch forest, who comforted other captive women in a strange tongue. When a violent storm struck, Amleth kept Olga close and saved her from the waves. By the time the ship reached Iceland, they had formed a bond, united by hatred of their owner and a growing mutual attraction. Upon arrival at the small settlement, Amleth, now calling himself Bjornulf, saw Fjalnir with the queen. Impressed by the newcomer's physique, Fjalnir chose him for labor and warned that any treachery would be punished personally. That night, the slaves were locked inside a cottage. After the others slept, Amleth slipped out to steal a weapon and glimpsed Fjalnir and the queen in an intimate embrace, a sight that filled him with shock and revulsion. Moments later, a small wolf appeared, as though trying to draw his attention. After following the wolf, Amleth came across a cave where he encountered a seer named Ingvar. Beside the seer lay a skull, which once belonged to Willem Dafoe's character. Ingvar pulled strands of hair from the skull and threw them into the fire to glimpse the future. He told Amleth that a sword, known as Draugr or the Nightblade, would render him unstoppable. However, the blade could only be sheathed by its true owner and could only be wielded at night. The following night, he continued his search and found the sword deep inside a cave, clutched in the hands of a mummified king. When he reached for the blade, the ancient corpse came to life and challenged him. Amleth engaged in a fierce battle and ultimately defeated the undead king, claiming the Nightblade as his own. He hid the weapon on the roof of the cottage and returned without anyone noticing his absence. The next morning, the slaves were informed that they would participate in a game against another village. Thorir asked Amleth if he could fight and allowed him to join. Amleth and his fellow slaves faced their opponents in a brutal match. During the game, Amleth not only secured victory, but also saved his younger half-brother, Gunnar. The village celebrated the win with drinking and dancing. In recognition, Thorir promoted Amleth's position and gave him Olga as a reward, though he reminded him that he would always remain a slave. The following evening, Amleth began his revenge by killing several of Thorir's men and arranging their bodies as a gruesome display on the village wall. By morning, Thorir was enraged by the murders and swore vengeance. The clan elder examined the wounds and declared that the marks were made by a night blade, a weapon that thirsted for blood. In response, the villagers prepared for a ritual sacrifice and ordered the slaves to protect the village. Amleth and Olga saw an opportunity. Since Olga was assigned kitchen duty that night, she cast a spell on the villagers by lacing their food with enchanted mushrooms. After dinner, the men descended into hysteria, plagued by hallucinations. Before dawn, Amleth told Olga he would rescue his mother and return her. He entered the queen's chamber and revealed his true identity, explaining that he had come to save her and Gunnar. To his shock, the queen admitted that she had conspired with Fjolnir to murder King Orvindil. She told Amleth that her marriage had been forced, that she had lived like a slave, and that she had never loved either the king or their son. She went further, confessing that she had begged Fjolnir to kill Amleth as well, for being his father's child. When Amleth mentioned seeing her scream as Fjolnir carried her away, she corrected him, claiming she had been laughing with joy at her newfound freedom. Devastated by the revelation, Amleth vowed revenge for his father's death. Before fleeing the village, he found Thorir, killed him with a night blade. By morning, Fjolnir was livid upon discovering his son's body. The queen informed him that Amleth was responsible for the killing and had returned. Furious, Fjolnir threatened to kill Olga. Watching from a distance, Amleth stepped forward and offered Thorir's heart in exchange for Olga's life. The tribesmen attacked, but Amleth fought them off one by one. He saw Olga escape the village and, satisfied, surrendered himself. The tribe captured and tortured him. That night, Fjolnir performed the funeral rites for Thorir, offering a horse and a woman as sacrifices to the gods. In the silence that followed, ravens entered the cottage and untied Amleth's ropes. In a haze between life and death, he dreamed of Odin carrying him on a flying horse toward a radiant light. After the burial, Fjolnir learned that Amleth had escaped. The next morning, Amleth awoke from a deep slumber and found himself resting in a natural hot spring. He soon realized that Olga had saved him the previous night. Together, they decided to abandon their pursuit of vengeance and begin a new life. Using his connections, Amleth arranged for a boat that would take them away from Iceland. While aboard the vessel, Olga revealed that she was pregnant with his child. Upon hearing this, Amleth made a difficult decision. He resolved to kill Fjolnir once and for all so that his future family could live in peace. Though Olga pleaded with him to reconsider, he jumped from the boat and entrusted the crew with safely transporting her to their destination. Returning to the village, Amleth set it ablaze and freed the remaining slaves. News of his return reached Fjolnir quickly. Fjolnir instructed the queen and Gunnar to hide within the chamber and not to leave under any circumstances. But Amleth made his way directly to the chamber in search of him. Inside, he was ambushed by his mother, who attacked him without hesitation. Amleth struck her down with his sword, killing her. Moments later, Gunnar lunged at him with a knife, stabbing him multiple times. Amleth was forced to kill Gunnar as well. Just then, Fjolnir appeared and found the lifeless bodies of his wife and son. He took their corpses and told Amleth to meet him at the gates of hell for their final confrontation. Amleth made his way to the gates of hell, where he found the bodies of his mother and half-brother laid to rest. He paused to look upon them and offered them a blessing for peace in the afterlife. Finally, he came face to face with Fjolnir. The two men clashed in a savage and unrelenting duel. In the end, Amleth decapitated Fjolnir, while Fjolnir, with his dying breath, managed to stab Amleth in the heart. Both men perished by each other's blade. In his dying moments, Amleth, caught in a state of delirium, in the vision, he saw Olga with their 2 children. Then, once more, he dreamt of riding a flying horse, soaring toward a radiant light in the sky.